I came home early from my girls' trip to surprise my husband and overheard him on the phone. Marriage is basically a jail sentence, man. I only stick around because her dad got me that promotion. We had just renewed our vows a month ago. I quietly left, came back later with a smile. 5 days later, he showed up at my job crying and saying, "Please don't do this." I was drunk. I didn't mean it, but I meant every step of what I did next. They always say don't eavesdrop unless you're ready to have your whole world shattered. But I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Really, I wasn't. I was just trying to surprise my husband, Matt, after cutting my girls' trip short by a day. It was one of those spontaneous decisions. I missed him. We had just celebrated our 4th wedding anniversary and renewed our vows at this vineyard in Napa with handwritten letters and soft piano music playing in the background. Picture perfect. I thought we were in a really good place. That Friday morning, I woke up in Sedona with my best friends Kaylee and Morgan, all of us nursing mild wine headaches and post-hike sore legs. We were supposed to check out the next day, but I had this little itch, call it intuition or bad timing or fate. I booked a last-minute flight, told the girls I had work stuff, lie, and promised we'd plan another trip soon. They didn't ask too many questions. By 6:30 p.m., I was unlocking the front door of our house in Austin. I was still in travel clothes, leggings, a hoodie, and my hair in a frizzy bun from the plane. I had this giddy feeling in my chest like I was about to unwrap a surprise I bought for myself. The lights were off in the front, but I could hear Matt's voice coming from his home office in the back. At first, I smiled. He was probably on the phone with a client. He's a real estate developer and always doing late-night calls with investors on the East Coast. I tiptoed down the hall, already planning to scare him with a boo, and then kiss his face off. Then I heard it. Bro, marriage is basically a jail sentence. Like, I wake up every day wondering why I signed up for this. If her dad hadn't pulled strings to get me that job at Archer and Bloom, I'd be out. Honestly, if she ever cut me off, I'd be screwed. I froze, my hand still hovering near the doorframe. My breath stopped. For a moment, I thought maybe he was acting, maybe it was sarcasm, or maybe I was imagining it. Then he kept going. No, man. She's great, like, objectively a good person. But I don't love her like that. I never did. I just played the part. It's been good for business, you know? Makes me look stable. People trust a married guy more. The walls started vibrating. Or maybe it was my heart beating too hard. I don't even remember walking away. I just know I left. I got back in my car, drove to a gas station parking lot, and sat there for half an hour with my hands clenched on the wheel. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat and stared ahead at the flickering neon sign that said open 24 hours and thought, wow, he really said that. Then I made a decision. I drove to my friend Jen's place, told her I came back early but wanted to surprise Matt tomorrow instead, and asked if I could crash there that night. She didn't ask questions, just made tea and gave me clean pajamas. The next morning, I went home around 11 a.m., as if I'd just landed. Walked in smiling. Kissed him. He smiled back, all sleepy-eyed, and I missed you, babe. I pretended I didn't already know everything. I've never acted in a play before. But apparently, I'm Oscar-worthy when I need to be. Matt didn't suspect a thing. The moment I walked through that door, suitcase in hand and fake jet lag in my eyes, he gave me this big, warm hug like he'd been counting the hours until I came back. He kissed my forehead, offered to carry my bag upstairs, and asked if I wanted Thai or sushi for dinner. I smiled and said sushi. I always say sushi. He knows that. We sat on the couch, his arms slung over my shoulder, watching the bear and sipping wine like nothing had happened. I played my part, leaning into him, nodding when he mentioned a new client, laughing at his dumb jokes like I didn't know he'd just admitted to using me and my family as his personal elevator to success. That night, I stared at him while he slept. His face looked soft, relaxed. I wondered if that was how he looked when he was lying on the phone to his friends. If that ease came from years of practice. But here's the thing. Matt wasn't always like this. We met at a tech mixer in Dallas 6 years ago. He was charming, attentive, and completely out of place in that crowd of Patagonia vests and fake laughing. We both ducked out of a boring panel and ended up walking the block to get tacos. He was funny. Sarcastic in the way I loved. A little too confident, but I took it as ambition. We dated long distance for about a year while I was finishing my MBA. Then he moved to Austin to start fresh, which really meant he latched onto my network, my connections, and my father's last name. Dad owns a real estate investment firm, and Matt practically drooled the first time he saw my dad's office. Back then, I thought he was just excited about our future. Now I know he was plotting his. I spent the next 3 days living like a double agent. Waking up early, going to work, coming home, and cooking dinner like a good wife. All while slowly unraveling the truth. I checked our joint bank account and found transfers to some consulting firm I'd never heard of. I checked his texts while he was in the shower and saw messages to someone named Alec. She still thinks I'm devoted. I could win an Emmy for this shit. Her dad said he might connect me to that Dallas investor. Playing the long game. Once the new project closes, I'm done. No prenup, remember. That one made me see red. No prenup. My father had advised it. I refused. Because I trusted him. Because I thought love meant betting on forever. Turns out Matt was betting on my money. I took screenshots. Backed up everything to a private drive. Called a lawyer friend under the guise of wanting to refer a friend for estate planning. Booked an appointment. I didn't plan on revenge. Not yet. I just wanted to be ready. On the 5th day, Matt noticed I seemed distant. He brought me flowers and Thai takeout like it was 2021 again, when we were still in that golden stretch of newlywed bliss. He looked me in the eyes and said, "I'm really glad you're home." I smiled and kissed him. Me too. But that night, while he slept, I packed a second suitcase and tucked it into the trunk of my car. Because I wasn't going to confront him yet. I wanted him to think everything was perfect, until it wasn't. And then I'd be gone. By the 6th day, I had become so good at pretending that I almost believed myself. I went to brunch with my sister, wore sunglasses to hide how red my eyes had been all week, and smiled through the house married life, questions like I hadn't heard my husband say he regrets everything about it. At home, Matt was being suspiciously perfect. He'd started making the bed badly, but still. He offered to drive me to work 2 mornings in a row, made my coffee just the way I liked it, and even posted an Instagram story with a photo of us from our Napa vow renewal, captioned, "Forever never felt so easy." The comments rolled in. #couple goals. My favorite humans. You two give me hope. BRB sobbing. And I just sat there staring at my phone like, how many people are faking it too? That night, I curled into him on the couch, head on his shoulder while he absent-mindedly scrolled Zillow listings for a dream lake house. I whispered, "Do you still want kids someday?" He kissed the top of my head. "Of course. With you?" "Definitely." I had to clench my jaw to keep from laughing. Or screaming. I wasn't sure which one was trying to escape. Because Matt had already said it. If it weren't for her family's money, I'd be gone. Marriage is jail. I never loved her like that. But he didn't know I knew. And honestly, that gave me power I didn't know I had. The next morning, I confirmed the meeting with the lawyer. We discussed options. I wouldn't get into the legal weeds here, but let's just say that no prenup doesn't mean no defense. Especially when your husband left a digital breadcrumb trail of manipulation, financial dependency, and emotional fraud. The lawyer was calm, clinical, just how I needed him to be. He said, "If you want to do this quietly, we can make that happen. But I'd document everything, and you need to stop sleeping in the same house with him soon." I nodded. But I wasn't done yet. Because what Matt didn't realize was that he wasn't just losing a wife, he was about to lose his entire facade. The company my dad helped him land that fancy job with? Yeah. I told my father everything. I wasn't crying when I did it. I just sat in his office after work, legs crossed, voice steady, and said, "I need to tell you what Matt said about you. And me. And our marriage." The look on my dad's face? I haven't seen that expression since I was 14 and broke a neighbor's window with a baseball. Except this time, it wasn't disappointment. It was fury. He didn't yell. My dad's not the yelling type. He just said, "Thank you for telling me. Let me handle it from here." Now here's where it gets wild. That same night, Matt got a call. From corporate. A sudden project reshuffle, they said. His big deal? Pulled. His client list? Reassigned. A meeting on Monday to discuss next steps. Matt came into the kitchen looking pale. "Babe, something weird's going on at work." I tilted my head and smiled. "Weird? Like what?" He shook his head. "I don't know. Just feels off." I touched his arm gently and said, "Maybe you're just being paranoid." And then I kissed his cheek. Because 5 days ago, I came home early and overheard my husband say he'd leave me if it weren't for my father's money. And now, he's about to find out what it feels like to be left. Matt's confusion quickly turned into paranoia. By Saturday morning, he was pacing the living room, phone glued to his hand, texting people from work and muttering half sentences like, "Doesn't make sense. We just closed that deal, and why would they loot me out?" I sat at the breakfast bar sipping coffee, watching him unravel like it was a documentary. He hadn't showered. His perfectly tousled hair was now just a mess, and he'd snapped at the coffee machine when it didn't work fast enough. I hadn't seen him like this since he tanked that deal 2 years ago and drank an entire bottle of Macallan trying to save face. Except now, there was no saving face. He looked over at me with these wild eyes and said, "Do you think your dad would have heard anything?" I blinked. About what? He hesitated. About Archer and Bloom. About what's going on with me. I gave him the calmest shrug of my life. "I don't know, Matt. You tell me what's going on with you." He stared at me for a second too long. Like he was trying to figure out whether I was being innocent or cruel. But he couldn't see it because he still thought I didn't know. That's the funny thing about liars. They always think they're the smartest person in the room, even when the whole house is burning down around them. Around noon, I went for a Target run. What I really did was move more things into storage. Nothing too obvious. My name was still on everything, joint lease, joint car, even the freaking Spotify family plan. But I wasn't going to stay in that house 1 second longer than I had to once the moment came. And it was coming. I met Jen afterward. She slid her phone across the cafe table and whispered, "Tell me when." She had the video ready. See, Jen's brother works in security. He helped me pull the audio from our home cameras, including the hallway one. I'd muted it before, but apparently Matt forgot they were even there. There it was, clear as crystal, his voice on the phone the night I came home early. "Marriage is a joke, man. She thinks I'm in love. I'm in business." I didn't plan on showing it to him yet, but knowing I had that, it gave me peace. Back at home, Matt was on the couch, laptop open, shirt wrinkled, pacing notes on the table. He looked up as I walked in. "You've been gone a while." Target was packed. "Got some storage bins too." He nodded slowly. "You okay?" I smiled. Perfect. But Matt wasn't. By Sunday night, he'd spiraled into a full-on crisis. I caught him on the patio with a glass of bourbon and this hollow look in his eyes. "They're phasing me out," he said. I sat across from him, under the twinkle lights we strung up for our 3rd anniversary. "That doesn't sound like you." He sighed. "I don't know what I did." I tilted my head. "Sure you didn't say something? To the wrong person?" He froze for just a second, then forced a laugh. "What, like I badmouthed my boss or something?" I leaned in. "Or maybe your wife." Matt's eyes snapped to mine. For a flicker of a second, I thought he knew. But then he shook it off. "Nah," he said. "I'd never do that." And I swear I almost laughed in his face. I didn't though. Not yet. Because the next day was Monday. And Monday was when the real fun began. He woke up before me. I could hear him clanking around in the kitchen, muttering curses as he tried to reheat yesterday's coffee. I stayed in bed an extra 10 minutes, staring at the ceiling, thinking today's the day. I got up, showered, did my hair, put on my favorite tailored blazer, the one Matt once said made me look too intimidating for brunch. Good. Intimidating was the point. He barely noticed. He was glued to his phone. At 8:17 a.m., he got the first call. I was buttering toast in the kitchen when he answered with a clipped, "Matt here." Then silence. Then a muttered, "Wait, what?" He stepped outside, but I didn't need to hear the rest. I already knew what they were telling him. I'd given my father the full download the day before, everything Matt said, screenshots, audio files, even a sweet little invoice for the $40,000 consulting firm Matt had been secretly funneling our savings into. My dad didn't raise his voice. He just looked at me and said, "Don't worry, I'll clean house." So yeah, that Monday morning call, Matt was being relieved of certain responsibilities, effective immediately. When he walked back inside, his face looked like someone had pulled the rug out from under his entire life. "They're restructuring," he mumbled. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean, you're fired?" He didn't answer. He just walked past me, straight to the liquor cabinet and poured bourbon into a coffee mug. 9:04 a.m. That's when my phone buzzed. 27 missed calls. All from Matt. See, while he was outside freaking out over the job, I had left quietly. Took my overnight bag, the one I packed the night he first lied, left my ring on the kitchen counter. Left a copy of the audio file on his laptop with a note that just said, "Play me." And I drove to Jen's place. At 9:13 a.m., Matt was blowing up my phone like it was on fire. Text after text. "Where are you? Please call me. Please. What did you do?" I messed up. Okay. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it. We can fix this. Don't throw us away like this. It was just a stupid rant. I was venting. I didn't mean it. Please. Please. Don't ruin everything. My phone rang again. I didn't answer. He sent a voice message. Just his voice cracking mid-sentence, saying my name over and over like it was a prayer and a curse at the same time. I listened to it once. Then I blocked his number. Not forever. Just for now. He needed to sit with it. Because I'd heard his voice too. I'd heard him say marriage was jail, that he never loved me, that I was a means to a career. Now he was begging to stay in the cell he built himself. The rest of that Monday felt surreal, like I was floating between realities. I filed paperwork with my lawyer, froze our joint account, texted my landlord to schedule a formal lease separation, ate Chipotle in Jen's kitchen while she played soft indie music and kept asking if I was okay. I wasn't. Not really. But I was clear. And that was more important. That evening, Matt sent one last message from a different number. Please, just talk to me once. I swear I'll explain everything. I stared at it for a long time. And then I replied, you already did. You just didn't know I was listening. By Tuesday, the calls had stopped. I thought I'd feel relief when the buzzing finally ended, when Matt realized no amount of begging or voice cracks could undo what he'd done. But what I really felt, peace. That deep, eerie kind. Like the eye of a storm right before it slams into the next town. I hadn't seen him since I left the house. And I didn't plan to, not until everything was in motion. But my friends? Oh, they saw him. Kaylee called around noon. Girl, he came into the cafe this morning looking like a lost puppy. Just sat there staring at the counter, like he forgot how to order coffee. Jen saw him too. He looks thinner. Like he hasn't slept. Good. I wanted him uncomfortable. Not out of cruelty, but because it was time he sat in the silence he left me with. The same silence I carried the night I came home from that trip, the night I heard him say our marriage was a business deal, and I was nothing more than a connection in his game. He had 5 years of my trust, my love, my family support. He wore it like a suit, perfectly tailored to fool everyone. But the moment he realized the suit was gone, he folded. That evening, I received a handwritten letter at Jen's apartment. He must have dropped it off himself. It read, I don't know how to undo what I did. You were the best thing in my life, and I treated you like a transaction. I lied to everyone, especially myself. I didn't know what I had until it was too late. I was scared of not measuring up. Your world felt so big. I thought if I couldn't control it, I'd be left behind. I never meant to fall out of love. I don't even know if I did. Maybe I never knew how to love properly in the first place. But I see it now. And I see you. Please talk to me. Just once. I read it twice. Then folded it and slid it into a folder with everything else, screenshots, bank statements, the call transcript, the audio. A pretty little package labeled, Truth Matt never thought I'd see. That night, I met with my father again. Told him I didn't want Matt punished beyond what he'd already lost. That this wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. And closure. He nodded. Then he asked, do you want him to know the full extent of what you did? I looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled, really smiled. Not yet. Let him fill in the blanks. Because sometimes, the worst punishment isn't what you know. It's what you'll never be sure of. It had been 8 days since I left. 8 days since I walked out with a kiss on his cheek and came back with the quiet power of knowing everything. 8 days since the mask fell off and Matt found himself alone in a house he thought he controlled. He kept trying to reach me, new numbers, DMs, mutual friends, even showing up at my office and waiting outside in his car like some sad Hallmark movie version of himself. But I never saw him. Not until Thursday. That was the day we met in the lawyer's office. Neutral ground. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but shrunk. Like he finally realized the world didn't revolve around the story he'd been telling everyone. I walked in wearing all black, not for drama, just because it made me feel unshakable. My lawyer sat beside me. His lawyer was late. Of course. He stood when I walked in, like old habits die hard. Hi, he said. Like we were strangers at a wedding who used to know each other. I nodded. No smile. His voice was quiet. I didn't think you'd show. I tilted my head. You asked for this. I asked to talk. Not this. He motioned to the table, the folders, the silence. I sat down anyway. For the first few minutes, it was just paperwork. Logistics. Separation of assets. Accounts. The house. The car. None of it mattered to me really. I just wanted the ties cut clean. Then, as we were wrapping up, he leaned forward and whispered, like the lawyers couldn't hear us. I meant some of it. Not all of it. I was just angry. Drunk. Trying to act tough. I looked him straight in the eye. No, Matt. You meant every word. That's why it was so easy for you to say them. He blinked, like I'd slapped him. Then he reached into his bag and slid something across the table. It was the framed photo from our vow renewal. Us at that vineyard, laughing mid-kiss. The moment I thought we were invincible. I look at this and think, how did I throw it away? I didn't touch it. Didn't even glance down. Because you never built it, I said. You borrowed it. You borrowed love, family, respect, and you spent it like it was yours. He looked wrecked. And maybe for the first time, it wasn't an act. I stood up, buttoned my coat, took a breath so deep it felt like I'd been holding it for years. He said, "Do you hate me?" I paused in the doorway, then turned. "No. You have to matter to be hated." And that was the last time I ever said his name out loud. Epilogue. It's been 6 months now. I moved into my own place. Started going to therapy. I planted herbs on my windowsill. I started journaling again. I even got a new number. Clean slate. Matt tried to email me once more. Said he'd started over, was working freelance, living in a studio downtown. Said he was different now. I didn't reply. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the best closure isn't a dramatic final scene. It's the silence that follows. It's knowing you didn't just survive what someone did to you. You grew around it. And now? I don't miss him. I don't wonder. I just smile. Because I know that the moment he realized I heard everything was the moment he lost everything. And I never had to raise my voice to do it.